So I'm going to begin with this wonderful slide, which describes sort of the history of conservation by design and the history of some of the key aspects of our work. And if you look at the timeline here, it runs from 1980 to the present day. Below that timeline are some of the key advances in how we sort of approached our work. And so we begin in the 1980s with the real sort of tool in our toolbox was land protection. So we protected preserves, we managed those preserves. That was how we sought to achieve our mission. Fast forward, to the present day, and you can see along that journey, we've expanded our thinking. We've picked up new ways of working. Our toolbox has got bigger, and so we have things like eco-regional planning, really working at larger scales. We had our goal of conserving, the major habitat types, across the face of the earth. Get to 2016 with when we were really thinking about that inextricable linkage between people and nature, and recognizing that if we want to solve the challenges to nature, we need to solve the challenges for people as well. So a major shift in our thinking and, sort of coming into 2016. And then we fast forward to the present day. And since 2016, we've learned a lot. We've evolved as an organization. And I'll talk a little bit about that evolution as I talk about the work to update conservation by design. So above that timeline then is how our guidance and our approach to supporting teams in developing strategies has changed in concert. So you'll see there in 1996, we had the first version of conservation by design sort of, emerge from TNC. That was the first version. If you fast forward, you can see the open standards for the practice of conservation, the open standards, as we often call them. This was really a point where the larger community of conservation NGOs recognized the great work that TNC was doing and took that and ran with it. And so now we have, we're at a point today where we have conservation by design, and we have what has become the conservation standards, this other sort of flagship approach to developing and improving strategies. And as we look to update the guidance, we want to take advantage of both of those resources and make sure we're harnessing the knowledge from both of those things as well. So a lot of rich learning, where our strategy development has kept track of how we've evolved as an organization. And that's what we're looking to do as we update the guidance today. So when we think about, conservation by design, it really helps us sort of answer a fundamental question that many of you sort of ask on a daily basis. How do we know what to do? There's any number of different things we could do. There's any number of different challenges we could look to solve. How do we sort through that and decide upon a course of action that we should take, within our business units as a global organization? So obviously everything begins with our mission, vision, and values. So we are rooted in our mission. All of our work should contribute meaningfully towards it. But as an organization, our mission is, it's relatively broad, and it still leaves a lot of scope for us to figure out what it is we should do. So we have our 2030 goals. They recognize, they represent the focusing for us as an organization, this idea that we need to focus if we're going to do enough of anything to make a meaningful difference. So the 2030 goals, the ask of leadership for all of us is that we focus our attention on work that meaningfully advances those goals. So that helps us focus, that helps us narrow down that funnel a little bit, but we're still left with there's 17 metrics and the goals, lots of things that we could do. So we need to figure out in any place that we work, in any geography, even if it's at the global scale, we're still asking that question, what is it we should do? But we now have the goals to aim towards. So if you think about the places we work, what we need to look at is, well, what are the most pressing needs or opportunities for us to advance our goals in that place? And you can, take an obvious example like Mongolia. Marine conservation, probably not where we should be focusing our attention. The point being that not all of our work touches down everywhere. Yeah, there are going to be places where we can, we may do one thing, but that thing is going to really make a difference. So by asking that question, what are the opportunities in this place? We begin to narrow down that funnel until we get to a point where we actually have a list of specific challenges we're looking to solve. We often call those challenges our primary interests. They're the things we want to resolve. They're the things we might want to avoid sort of happening in the future. And that's where conservation by design comes in. When we get to the point where we've identified challenges we're looking to solve, conservation by design helps us sort through, like, what are all the approaches we could take? What's the subset, the short list of approaches we're actually going to try taking and use as a basis for making progress towards the goals of our strategy, and as a place for us to learn as well. And then we take those actions through projects. So projects and strategies are inextricably intertwined. Conservation by design is designed to help teams develop and improve strategies. So we can take a little bit of a deeper dive in that relationship. Strategies, inform what projects we should undertake, so the two should be linked together. They help us figure out what progress we expect to make. They help us set our outcomes, and they align, and we should be aligning those with the 17, one or more of the 17 metrics with our 2030 goals. And strategies help us figure out what it is we need to learn. What are the assumptions we have? What are the key things that we need to test in order to ensure that the story we've developed about how our actions will lead to the change we want to see, in order to make sure that that story hangs together, and when it doesn't, as a basis for learning for adaptive management. Projects are then where we actually take those actions, where we make that progress, where we gather that learning, and that then feeds back through the adaptive management cycle to help us inform and to continue to grow our strategy. And the analogy that I use here, because my eldest daughter is in high school in the US, is high school. You could think of university, you could think of secondary school. And we want to graduate from. I want my daughter to graduate from high school. She does too. But actually, graduating from high school, what she has to do is figure out a bunch of classes to take. She has to do well in those classes, and through that, she will achieve high school. So the analogy here is heavy-handed. High school is like a strategy passing high school. Classes are like projects. So that sort of pairing may or may not help you sort of make sense of the two. Conservation by design also fits within what we call our conservation system. So this is a network of support guidance tools provided by the conservation programs team, all in service of helping teams have impact towards our goals. So conservation by design feeds directly into portfolio management. Portfolio management focuses on strategies. They're informed and shaped by conservation by design. The Conservation Hub is the place where we describe the basic details of those strategies and projects, where we track progress towards our intermediate results and our outcomes, and when we make that information available to decision makers at all levels of the organization. Monitoring, evaluation, and learning is actually the last step in the Conservation by Design modules. It really sets teams up to then get into that space of adaptive management and come back to refining the strategy over time. And then the metrics guidance is the currency by which we evaluate our work. We need to understand the metrics guidance in order to have a sense of, what work should we undertake? What is going to count towards our goals? Some of these really basic questions come out of the metrics guidance. So this integrated model, conservation by design, is absolutely a part of that model, of that picture.